All right, good afternoon, ARB. We're live, you're being recorded, and you may start your meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Zappa. My name's Kathleen Cunningham. I'm the chair of the Architectural Review Board. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the September 14th, 2023 meeting. I thank you for attending. Before we get started, I'm just going to read a little bit from the code about the Architectural Review Board's charge. The architectural, from section 255-7-20 of the town code, the Architectural Review Board shall be charged with the responsibility of carrying out the architectural and design review provided for in this article. After such review, it shall approve, modify, and approve or disapprove the proposed designs or changes in design over which it has jurisdiction, except as provided in 255-790. And I'm going to skip to 255-730, activities requiring Architectural Review Board approval, which includes site plan review of all buildings, structures, including associated signs, which require site plan approval pursuant to Article 6 of this chapter. It accepts a few things: signs, agricultural overlay districts, historic landmark and historic districts. Any reconstruction, demolition, moving, removal, or exterior alteration of a building or structure which is designated as an historic landmark, or located on a site designated as an historic landmark, or located within an historic district, and the erection, construction, or placement of any building or structure on a site designated as an historic landmark or located within an historic district. Among other things, we have a very broad portfolio, and our charge is complex. So I read from the code usually at the beginning of our meeting to help center us as we review the applications before us. So as our first order of business, I would like to get an approval of the minutes from August 24th, 2023, please.
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's passed and carried. Our first application is the Drucker Residence, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-62-7-2.4. It says Britton Bissinger, but I understand Ms. Scarlato is here to represent the applicant today. Welcome, Ms. Scarlato. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. I haven't been in front of you before. Nice to see you. Tiffany Scarlato, 45 Division Street, Sag Harbor, New York, for the applicant. I just want to start off by apologizing.
Oh, here's the way we usually do it, is that the board member that's responsible for the application will say what they're going to say, and then we hear from the applicant.
Perfect.
Okay, so if you just hold for a sec.
Yep.
So this is an application for retroactive an approval for a building that's in the historic district. It doesn't seem to be a contributing historic property, but it's bordering it is. Oh, there we go. 836 Fireplace Road, designated area. Thank you,
Dan.
Vice Chairman Leon and Dan. Okay. So it is, designated area, the entire parcel. Remarks are Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner acquired this land in 1953 and soon moved an old architectural building from a nearby farm onto the site. It was apparently intended to be a place for Lee Krasner to work, but it was never converted into a studio. The structure, which measures 14 feet by 22 feet in plan, has a hewn oak frame with 14-foot posts and a drop tie beam 6 feet below the plate. The east wall had barn doors at the first floor and loft doors within the gable. The actual use and exact former location of this structure is not known. The structure was made into a house about 1963 and is now part of a larger residence completed in 2003. So there's a picture here that I'll share with the board of the house with an architectural building at the far right. I can't really see that well from that photograph. Yeah. But anyway, this has been it's problematic because a building permit was issued in error without the understanding that it was in an historic district, so it escaped our review, which is a requirement.
Yep.
Which I know that council recognizes. What we're trying to do today is establish what can be done to bring this more into compliance. The building is built substantially. There's not much left to be done. I mean, except for, some trim work, and there's still some siding that has to be put up. Maybe we could just take a look through the photographs, please, Dan. One of the, I just want to read a little bit from the Springs District Historic Guidelines, which is the location and composition of the district. This is, oh gosh, I'm trying to find the code section, what is number? I don't have the number. I just have the section DC. Doesn't say here. Anyway, it's in the code. I can retroactively tell you what that is, but I'm not making this up. It's C1, location and composition of the district. The Springs Historic District contains a mix of 19th century farmhouses, barns, community buildings, and commercial buildings in a rural setting. The group of intact historic buildings, which includes 10 vernacular farmhouses, 4 barns, the 1844 Springs General Store, the 1882 Springs Community Presbyterian Church, the 1884 Springs School, Ashwauke Hall, and the 1886 Charles Parsons Blacksmith Shop represent many facets of life in this thriving agrarian community during the 19th century. Equally important to the historic buildings is their setting. Although the farms are no longer active and fields are overgrown, the barns, outbuildings, and maintained clearings keep the rural landscape intact. The historic setting is especially vivid at the heart of the district with the triangular green at Ashwauke Hall, the Pusey's Pond Preserve, and the open farmyard and agricultural buildings of the Talmadge Miller House across Fireplace Road. This open setting maintains the relationships between the farmhouses, community buildings, country store, and blacksmith shop. Also preserved are the important relationships of the 19th century Springs Farm between farmhouse barn, pasture land, woodland, salt meadow, and the freshwater springs of Pusey's Pond. We have specific preservation goals that we're obliged to follow, which are to maintain and enhance the elements that contribute to the overall setting, open yards and clearings, traditional fences along the road, visual connections between historic buildings and vistas to Accabonac Harbor, maintain the architectural integrity of the historic buildings, especially of the front facades and other components visible from the road. Also to allow additions and other changes to rear walls and in appropriate ways to side walls to allow the historic buildings to be adapted to changing needs and lifestyles, and to maintain the architectural integrity of the barns and other agricultural structures and the integrity of their setting. Then there's a summary of work that is exempt from review, which I'll just briefly say. Exempt from review of property with historic single-family residences, roofing, painting, shingling, sidewalls, storm-screened windows and storm doors, window shutters, gutters and leaders, porch steps, decks, and terraces. Work to the rear wall that does not require a building permit. Any work to a non-historic accessory building less than 50 years old, which does not require a building permit. All wood horizontal fences with 2 or 3 rails and wood split rail fences with 2 or 3 rails less than 4 feet high. Resurfacing existing driveways, walkways, exterior lighting, any minor repair where the purpose of the repair is to correct deterioration of a feature arid to restore that feature to its original condition. I don't think that word might be word, but anyway. Work that is exempt from review for a property with non-historic single-family residence was all that was just listed. And any work to the residence itself which does not require a building permit. So there's guidelines for site planning, which I refer to in total, but I'm not going to read. Maybe except driveways, walkways, and parking area. The intent is to just encourage paving that does not detract from the setting of the historic district, especially at parking areas for non-residential properties. A plan to install a new driveway or parking area will be reviewed for its impact on the setting of buildings in the district. All walkways are exempt from review for a single-family residence or a church, and resurfacing an existing driveway is exempt from review. Guidelines to historic buildings. Work to the rear wall of a single-family residence that does not require a building permit is exempt from review. Any work to the rear wall of a single-family residence that does not require a prior permit is exempt from review. That's sort of saying the same thing twice. Wall material. The intent is to retain appropriate exterior materials, especially wood shingles. Wood shingled exteriors predominate on the historic buildings and make a major contribution to the cohesive character of the Springs Historic District. I'm going to skip ahead here. Roof material is not considered a critical factor. Roof material is exempt from review. Doorways, the intent is to retain original front doorways that contribute to the historic character of a building. Among the rural farmhouses of this district, a simple entrance such as that of the Abram King House at 791 Fireplace Road is as important as a more decorative entrance, such as the Greek Revival doorway of the Jonathan Ambrose Parsons House or the Anderson House. Review is required for any proposals to replace a door or components of a door enframement. All significant elements of an original front doorway, including the door, should be retained and repaired instead of replaced. If replacement of any component is necessary, the new material should match that being replaced. Installing a storm or screen door at any doorway is exempt from review. For any single-family residence, installing an access to a door for the physically handicapped is exempt from review. Windows, the intent is to retain original windows that contribute to the historic character of a building, especially on the front facade. A large number of historic buildings retain the original windows and window sash. These are primarily the 6-light sash of the Greek Revival period and the 2-light sash of the Victorian era. These intact windows make a significant contribution to the architectural character and to the sense of authenticity of the historic district. Windows and their trim that contribute to the historic character of a building should be retained where reasonably feasible as set forth below. For any request to replace window components, the Architectural Review Board will consider the contribution the existing windows make to the historic character of the building. Replacement components for important windows, especially those on the front wall or another prominent wall, should match the material, configuration, and dimensions of the original. When a window is deteriorated and needs to be replaced, the board will work with the homeowner to find the best replacement at a reasonable cost. Storm windows, window screens, and window shutters are exempt. Installing a skylight requires review. And it goes on for porches. The intent is to retain original porches that contribute to the historic character of a building. Front porches are important features of some of the Victorian era farmhouses in the district, such as the Julius Parsons House at 803 Fireplace Road and the Pollock Krasner House, which happens to neighbor this property to the north. And it goes on about porch posts, columns, balustrades, brackets, and other important components require review. Deteriorated components should be replaced in kind. Repair or replacement of porch steps, porch flooring, and railings to porch steps are exempt. Paint, most historic buildings in the district retain the traditional color schemes of unpainted shingle siding with white trim or white siding with white trim. These two traditional color schemes are an important unifying feature of the district and contribute to the rural character. Paint is exempt from review for a single-family residence or a church. The following guidelines apply to other properties. Historic buildings with either natural shingle siding or with shingle or clapboard siding painted white should retain those treatments. Paint colors should be appropriate to the period and style of the building. Other structures in the district, the intent is to retain the historic agricultural structures that contribute to the character of the district. The surviving barns and sheds are essential reminders of the agrarian history of the Springs. The Charles Parsons Blacksmith Shop is also part of this heritage. These structures are among the most valuable in the district. They should be retained and their historic and architectural integrity kept intact. Anyway, it goes on with guidelines for non-historic buildings, guidelines for new construction. We can refer to that, but I just wanted to set that. There's a couple things here I wanted to, for guidelines for new construction. Under C7B1, new buildings should be compatible with historic buildings and with the character of the historic district. Section 255-7-60B of the East Hampton Town Code provides criteria for judging the compatibility of new construction. These criteria, which are amplified below, define the basic design elements which establish the character of the historic district. The design elements of a new building should be in harmony with the same elements of the surrounding historic buildings. The builders of some of the recent houses within the Springs Historic District took advantage of the overgrown pasture landscape and set the new construction back from the road where it would be screened by the native vegetation. This practice has worked well in the rural context of this district. In reviewing applications for new construction, the degree to which the proposed building will be visible from adjacent historic properties and from the road will be taken into account. Priority will be given to the compatibility of the most visible features of the proposed new building. It goes on here that I'm just going to jump to the two issues that I think are relevant. And that number 6 in this list is scale. The scale of a new building and its features should be in harmony with the scale of the historic residents in the district. And then number 9, proportion and arrangement of windows and other openings. The windows of a new building should generally be rectangular with a vertical proportion. The arrangement of windows and doorways should produce a balanced facade. The front facade and prominent side facades of new buildings should have a ratio of door and window area to wall area similar to that of the historic residences. And then on to 11, the materials of a new building should be in harmony with the materials of the historic residences. Wood shingles are an appropriate siding material. Painted wood doors, windows, and trim would enhance the harmony of materials. Anyway, there's a ton there. I read a lot, and I thank you for your patience as we orient ourselves as we go to try to, we're dealing with a problem. Clearly, this was not the preferred method for either of us. So we're going to try to work through this. So having said all that, I think that, we've got we would be eager to hear what remedies you may be willing to propose. And then I think we're going to have to sit on, work this out somehow. We're not going to be able to make a decision about it tonight. And we'll try to go from there. So
I just want to go over the history of the property a little bit, because I think that is really important when it comes to this particular structure.
Mm-hmm.
And just so, as I said, I started out before with an apology. None of us meant to be here. These property owners spent 2.5 years in permitting. They went before the zoning board. They were before the planning department. It sat in the building department. No one ever noticed, and I wasn't working on the project at the time, but no one noticed that it was part of the Springs Historic District, because there would have been no reason for us to skip coming here. If we were in permitting for 2.5 years, there's no reason to not come here.
Okay.
So understand that it was something, and I believe it was called in as a complaint, and a stop work order was issued as a result. We then discovered it was, and immediately filed application here.
Okay.
So understand we're not doing it, the applicants didn't intend to go
Wasn't
out.
malicious intent, but
No malicious intent whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to the history of the house, I think that's important as well. And just some really basic history on it. Back in 2001, the house was purchased at a foreclosure auction by a local attorney, Andy Hammer.
Right.
At that time, there was no Springs Historic District. There were no historic springs. There were no historic guidelines in place. He purchased it in 2001 and obtained a building permit and ZBA approval in 2002 to put a very large addition on the house and renovate the entire place completely. Unfortunately, at that point, and I can say this with some degree of experience because I was friends with both Andy and the builder, was actually my ex-husband.
Small town.
That's what happens in a small town. But from personal experience, I can tell you that the entire house was gutted. And most of what you see here, can you put up a picture of the front of the house? Because the vast majority of what you see in these photographs is new.
Mm-hmm.
There is only one portion of the house, which I'm just going to point to. It's way back here.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the old structure.
That includes the chimney, right?
Right.
Mm.
And that part, that was all, it was not watertight at the time. I remember it. They replaced all the windows. They redid the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing left of the historic nature of that is the chimney, which remains.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, the entire thing was renovated and received a certificate of occupancy in 2003. So none of what you see there now is new construction.
Mm-hmm.
This is all renovation from construction that was completed in 2003. The Springs Historic District was not enacted until 2004.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the house itself could not possibly be considered historic at this point. It was completely renovated in 2003. It is within the designated historic district, so we acknowledge that the board does have some jurisdiction here, but it is not considered a historic home at this point. So we're here for the things that obviously that we missed during the process. And those are, just so that, and I think it's good for us to clear up what jurisdiction we're talking about and what exactly the board is reviewing, because as you said, it is complicated, and given the history of this house and how it came to be in the condition that it's in right now, it's important for us to know exactly what we're here for. We're here for the replacement of the windows and doors. They were all Marvin windows when they were put in 2002, I'm going to say, before they were issued a CO in 2003, and they're all being replaced with Marvin windows and doors. The front decking, I think, is being changed to untreated IPA wood. There is an additional pergola that's being added to the property, and I believe you have a photograph of that and plans for that, and that's done with yellow cedar and natural wood. And there was some mention of the shed on the property being removed as well in that very thorough 38-page review. And just to note, for purposes of that shed, I did speak to Andy Hammer about this as well. And on the property record card, he received a building permit for said shed in 2004 and was issued a CO in 2004. He told me he ordered the shed online. It came in a box and had plastic windows. So the shed has been removed, and admittedly, the board does have jurisdiction over that, but the property record card verifies as well as I can verify and testify to the fact that that shed was not historic in any way, shape, or form. So as I said, we understand that there was some confusion during the process and that this just was not picked up. It was not intentional. They have done everything they can to maintain the character of the property. They did, like I said, change some of the windows. I know the front, where you see the larger black window, there had been basically a fake barn door there. I spoke to my ex-husband today about it. He said he made it out of MDF wood, so it wasn't even authentic in any way. He built it himself. And was upset actually that the owner had taken it down. But that being said, it wasn't historic. So I think the point, and it's most important for the board to recognize that the house itself is not historic, and so that we're dealing with a house that unfortunately probably lost whatever historic qualities it had back in 2002 and prior to the issuance of the CO in 2003. If you go to the house now, there's nothing there that would indicate to you that there was any, unfortunately, nothing there that would indicate to you any historic element to the house.
Right. Okay. Well, it's still, whether it's I mean, to my mind, whether it's, I mean, if it's an historic property, I think you make an argument that it's not an historic building, but even if it's a non-historic property, it's still subject to our review. You know,
Understood.
And the standards still apply.
Understood.
You know,
I just don't want us to go back over the architecture of the
No,
house.
I get it.
It's not new
I
construction,
take your
it's all
point.
existing.
I take your point. I take your point. So I think my question is, how do we, I mean, I understand what David, Ms. Scarlatto's recitation of the ownership and history of this building would imply that it lost whatever, that it was historic maybe in 2002, but it's not.
There's a portion that's historic is I think more the point.
I don't know that not to be argumentative, but I don't know that that portion is even historic. When I spoke to Andy and the builder today, both of them told me that even the framing was rotten. The building itself was completely rotten. It was not watertight.
Right.
And the photograph, that, by the way, that you see I think it's in the historic district book noted for Springs, is the house when it was finished.
So the beams and the interior, all that you see there is new?
Interior is not within the board's jurisdiction.
I understand, but I'm asking because of what is described in this, that says the structure, which measures 14 feet by 22 feet in plan, has a hewn oak frame with 14-foot posts and a drop tie beam 6 feet below the plate. So I know I've seen interior images that show that type of rough hewn feature, and you're telling us that that does not exist any longer?
That does not exist anymore.
I'm sorry?
To my knowledge, that does not exist anymore.
Well, it was in the pictures from like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, so that's why I'm asking.
As I said, the property was issued a building permit, and that's interior work that would not have been subject to the board's review.
I understand. What I'm trying to establish is you are arguing that there is no portion of this building that has any historical architectural integrity, and I'm just trying to establish that whether that is the case or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point is, the point is that if there's some, every building has to be maintained, and even this building needed, repair and renovation. if the interior, if the framing is intact, even though that's not our jurisdiction, it would imply that there's part of the house that is historic. That's the point. So in terms of establishing whether it has historic features or not, whether they're exterior, if the interior is historic, and I've seen I've seen a real estate listing for it that just show these rough hewn beams and so forth. So that would reinforce this description that we're getting, and so that would lead me to believe at least a small portion of the house is still maintains those historic qualities.
What I can tell you about the house itself and what went on during the building process, because I was unfortunately listening to both sides of it, was that there were a lot of old beams in the house that they did reuse in other parts of the house. Forgive me, my ex-husband was very talented in that way, and so a lot of the beams that they found on the property and found out in the woods, they would reuse on the property, and so I think some of those are what you see. And I could have him come in. Like I said, I told him today, and Andy were both willing to come and talk about what they did.
I understand.
But even if we're just talking about that portion of the house, the remainder of the house is brand new.
Right, I understand,
So
but I think
even if we're just talking about probably 800 square feet of the house.
right, but that if 800 square feet of the house is historic, then that makes it,
Well,
that validates this listing.
I think more the point is that it's squarely in the Springs Historic District, which in fact is also stated in every single real estate listing for this property. So it baffles me that the owner didn't know.
It baffles me
and
that the town
then
didn't realize
And
either.
then I would say that replacing windows with this type of window with the black finish doesn't necessarily comport with the guidelines of.
Do you know what color the windows were before? They were
I'm
blue. They were royal blue.
I am saying that now, had they come before us, that might not be
But I guess
something
what I'm
that we
saying
would
is
look
we're
at
asking to have
favorably.
replaced,
So
to
I'm
replace
saying.
already
May I
modern
finish
windows
my-
with
may I
modern
finish
windows.
what I'm saying? Please? What I'm saying is, since it is squarely within the historic district, we would be looking at those kinds of details of the materials. And so, yes,
Right.
wood shingle, is it going to weather, or is it
Right.
going to continue looking like this?
What color is
Is it
the
black
trim?
trim?
Right.
Does it then comport with the character of the historic district to its neighbor, which is the Pollock Krasner house?
Can you see
That's-
this? Can you see this from
Visible
any,
is this.
yeah, from the
You can
road,
see it
from the
from
Pollock
road.
Krasner
Yeah.
house?
Yes.
You can
Yeah,
see the
it's
whole
right-
thing?
it's
You can see it from
well,
the
you can
Pollock
see
Krasner house?
You can see the southern elevation from the Pollock Krasner house. It's right up against, it's very close to that property line. And you can see it from, this is from the street.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
This is from the street. This is the picture of it from the street. So not, the entirety of it isn't visible from the street. And there is, the placement of they replaced it where the original house was, which took advantage of that, piece I just read about the
Yeah.
natural landscaping, offering screening, pushing it back on the lot and all the rest. As a general principle, I think that the house that's built, replicates the gables, western elevation has gables, and, the configuration that is most like the original building, and that there are elements of it that are, I think, that are okay, but I have problems with the black windows with black trim. And I think that in this instance, what we're having to review is what's existing compared to the historic district standards, not what's existing compared to the previous. And I say existing because this house is built, it's not like existing and proposed in the usual conversation that we would be having. This is existing.
Understood.
It's no longer proposed. So how are we going to, if you had come to us with these plans, I would have said, I think the windows should be white. And I would have, can you just go through give us the western elevation of the house, please, Dan? And that's kind of the north, but that sliding door there and there we go. That window, which had been the fake barn door, as you're saying, although It looked like a barn, it might have been a fake
It was a
barn door.
garage. It was a garage that was converted into habitable space,
Right.
legally so.
Right.
But it was not, like I said, and if you'd rather have an affidavit from the builder or the prior owner, I'm
No,
happy to do that.
I don't need that. I just think that the change is really in the facade, the front-facing facade, and that's really our primary area of concern. I think that also the side-facing Polly Krasner house is very important. I also feel like the north side is important because that's also quite visible from the road. So, the part that faces Accabonac Harbor is less, of our concern. But in this instance, I would recommend you come up with some other idea for that window. I think that window is just not.
You mean the large square? front window?
Yeah, and also the slider. And then if you can just move through to the southern elevation for me, please, Dan. Now, it's hard to see with the reflected, it's so, I don't know why that is. It's
Sun's over there.
place.
It's the angle of the
It's
sun.
fall where the sun is coming in, because usually we don't have this problem, but this is the original fireplace. This is the part of the building that we think is probably the most historic piece from the, description of the, the framing. But I still find the black trims on the windows. I think if the windows were trimmed in white, it would be better. So let's scroll through these other elevations, and then we'll hear what the rest of the board has to
Kathy,
say.
just to be
Sorry.
clear,
Yeah.
you're saying that you would rather have white trim around the windows rather than the black trim, but the windows themselves are.
I mean, I think as a practical matter, I don't know how easy it's going to be to swap out these. It's really hard to see this.
Or-
Can you
Not only
tip
that,
tip
want
the
me to
board a
move this
little
picture?
toward us? Just tip it.
This way?
Yeah, it's much better. Thank you. That helps.
Better?
Yeah, that helps.
Everybody see?
There's a
Yep.
big white
Yeah.
car parked in that big window.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, can you,
No, it's
it's
fine,
worse
it's
now
fine.
for you? Oh, I
It's
see the
fine.
police car. But this is the east facing elevation, right? Yeah.
This is facing, no. this
Oh,
is
no, I'm
facing
sorry.
Accabonac
This is,
Harbor.
which
South
is
of the water.
east. No, Accabonac Harbor is east of it. South is, as you look at the property, west is towards you, east is behind you, south is to the right, bordering Polly Krasner, and north is the opposite side. So this is kind of from the northeast corner. I'm taking it, the road is to the right, sort of here and behind it.
Is
Yeah,
this
this is
visible
a
from a
full,
road?
what?
Is this,
No,
So-
this is.
this really isn't,
This is not in our purview. It's the rear.
That's the
But-
rear of the house.
Right. So if you just keep scrolling, please, Dan. Yeah, that's when I stepped back and, well, it was hard to do that because there's a project containing fence. And anyway, it's not the entirety of the east elevation, but it's close. Because there's that bit off to the left. That was just, that looked like a piece of sculpture that was once reaper. But anyway, but this is the neighboring house. It's just a little tiny, shingled, typical, East Hampton cottage. And so that gives you the flavor of the neighborhood, because the Polly Krasner house is to the south and that little building is to the north. This is I think this is what you see from the Polly Krasner side.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is not so bad, I don't think, but I would rather see white trim around the windows. And whatever that door is there, whatever, I can't really tell, sort of beneath the trees. Okay, can you keep going, please, Dan? Is that it on the photos?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's just bring it to the front-facing facade, if we can land on that. I think it's the next, that's good. That's good. Just, no, go back, please.
That's also.
Oh, no, actually, this is better. Yeah, you're sorry. You were right. Keep going. Yeah, that's it. Leave it there. Yeah. Because these are some kind of sliders too, which are front facing, but it's deeper into the property. Yeah. Anyway, so that's our problem. That's where we are. So I'd like to hear what the board has to say. We're probably going to have to we're going to have to look at this again, I think, before we can really render a decision, but I think it'd be helpful to give the applicant some direction. What do you think, Diane?
Oh, well, I think, it doesn't matter what beams, exactly what was historic and what wasn't historic. I mean, I think what it matters now is how it fits in the context of because it's the deeply historic part of the historic district.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that anything, I think it feels natural to play down the new modern aspects of the house instead of emphasizing it.
Right.
And
Right. Okay. That's helpful.
what are some of the new modern aspects of the house?
Well, the
Sliding
windows,
glass doors,
the framing
yeah.
of the windows, and that's the most obvious.
Right, I have to tell you, I'm not sure that there wasn't intended to be framing around those windows that just hadn't been completed as a matter of, part of the stop workers, so I'll check into that. But
Right.
I can see your point about the white trim around the windows would probably look nice.
White or paint,
Yeah, just even
Are the windows wood or metal?
the metal.
They're metal, same as the ones that were in the house prior.
You can't paint these.
Yeah.
I mean, which were just my understanding, and I don't want to throw, but all I have to say is if we're talking about replacing the window and door package, we're talking a substantial financial burden on the owner.
Right. Well, that's not our concern. That's not our job. It's not our job to tell them how much it costs or what it costs to correct the error. What we need to tell them is what works architecturally.
But they need our approval to sign off
Right,
on
okay.
this construction.
So, yes, I understand, but can't they trim it? You telling me that the windows can't be trimmed with white?
You'd have to take all the shingles off.
I actually think it would look worse to have a black window with a white frame. The contrast is going to be too much because these are going to gray out, which is
What, the
right now,
windows
there's a
are going
lot
to
of-
gray
hang on.
out or the shingles?
There's a lot of, the shingles will silver out.
When you say these are going to gray out, I'm just trying to say these,
The
what?
shingles.
The shingles, because you were talking about the windows, so I
The
wasn't sure. if
shingles
you
will
meant-
silver out,
Yeah,
so the contrast with the black will be not as great. I mean, my position about this is, in terms of a historic district, would I prefer it? Do I think it maybe conforms more if it's white windows? I do, but I'm not behind throwing out the window and door package as part of this application. I'm not.
what remedy do you suggest?
I
What
don't,
about screening with
We
vegetation?
have a vegetation plan that's been approved by the zoning board of appeals pursuant to the NRSP issued for the property.
well, there is screening?
Would you, that
I don't
was
have a
before it was known those in the historic district, though, right?
So you mean, are you
So
saying
I'm-
that they made a mistake and they didn't know?
I'm asking Tiffany, in lieu of having to repaint and replace the windows, is it possible that they could screen some of them with vegetation so it wouldn't be visible from the front facade?
I'm willing to speak with them about, front, I don't know if that solves any of the board's issues, if there is some additional screening along the front facade that would potentially block the view of some of that
My remedy,
roadway, although not much of it is.
because you
visible
ask
from
your
the
poll
roadway
what other
right now
people on the
anyway.
board, I suggest if it's an issue my recommendation would be that they have to screen this property from the main street and the Pollock house, and that's my remedy.
Okay, well, thanks. That's actually a useful suggestion. Chip, what do you think?
Well, it appears that there's been a series of administrative mistakes by the town of East Hampton that are no fault of the owner. And given the history of the house, I don't see any historic value in this house. And I agree with Frank. We have much bigger fish to fry in East Hampton in terms of historic structures. This is not an historic structure, though it ended up in an historic district. But I would just leave it alone and plant some evergreens.
Okay, Mooney, S. Brownson. Sorry.
I would be in favor. I agree with what Diane was saying. There's a severity to it right now. I understand the graying out or the weathering of the shingles, but the severity of the black trimmed windows with no actual molding frame, it's been modernized.
And I will.
And I understand that aesthetic. I do. It's not that I dislike it. It's just when I see it in the context, I don't think it's contextual exactly. I don't agree, though, with screening it at the street or along the perimeter, because the whole point of these properties, and you have the Nature Conservancy and vistas, I would disagree with blocking it off, because it creates, again, this corridor of evergreen, that if it can be softened with landscaping close to the house, meadow-like, I don't know, whatever, just
Yeah, it is
appropriate to
pasture
the
land,
area.
yeah, it's not
It is,
supposed to be, it's not a
exactly.
forest, yeah. Right.
So that's
The other suggestion, and my clients are also horrified right now by the current color of the shingles.
Is it Alaskan yellow cedar?
It is, and that's what was
It'll
originally.
gray out though.
They will gray out. They also were like, oh geez, no wonder someone called. I wish we could figure out a way to
Yeah.
gray them out faster. Because they also were just waiting for them to age.
They're the best shingles you can buy. They're the most expensive, and they gray out, but they last twice as long as red cedar shingles. So they're doing exactly the right thing with the shingles.
It just
Yeah, I
looks
don't think
rather
it's the
stark right
shingles.
now.
Yeah, I think the shingles are, as I said in the beginning, I feel like the basic structure, the lines of the house are basically acceptable. It's really just the windows. A little bit of the massing, to me, I would, if I could go back to the drawing board, I would have asked them to bring it down a little bit in the massing, but that ship has sailed. But it's really just now, I think, trying to mitigate the fenestration and the doors in some way, because that is the thing that is, least compatible with the criteria of the characteristics of the historic district. So, I don't know. Why don't you go back to your clients and see what they might be able to do?
You can do that.
Okay, and then we can meet again on this.
Absolutely. Do you know when this will be put over for?
No, I can't tell you. We've got a long list of things. We boosted you.
No, when you, I think that it gets a date after the submissions are received by the.
Yeah, and we boosted
planning
you
department.
because of this problem with the bill, we accelerated this application because of the problem with the building permit. So as soon as you submit something, we'll be able to tell you when you can be on the
So I
agenda.
will get right back to you with that.
All right, that sounds great.
We'll bring back a vegetation plan to soften it, just so I'm going over it, just so I'm clear
Yep.
about what the board is.
Well, we'll send you a follow-up letter with some
Yeah, I think it's
recommendations.
good to have
too.
Tiffany.
So yeah, just so so I'm not misunderstanding, and I don't get a follow-up letter that says what? That we want some additional vegetation closer to the house in a meadow-like form and down the side on the Polly-Krasner house, but not high vegetation.
I don't really think that, I don't think it's, maybe we should poll the board on that. That was what Frank and Chip seemed to recommend, but I don't know if Esperanza and Diane and I agree with that. I think that the openness between it and the Polly-Krasner house is a characteristic of that district and the relationship of what this building was to, it was once Lee Krasner's proposed
That's the new
studio.
house you keep holding up, just so you know.
This is
Yeah.
the new house, yeah, but
Yeah,
It is the new house. There is no
We
picture.
understand.
but I'm saying, do you guys feel like there should be more
Yes.
screening in between?
I mean, I will say,
No, let me
why
hear
not
from
speak
Diane and Mooney,
to the
please.
Polly-Krasner house and
Yeah.
kind of actually get some
So-
history maybe from them.
Right, but just because we're
also-
trying to give her direction, not landscaping in between.
I don't
These two.
think so.
Are you
I
in
think
agreement
there's
with that?
sufficient-
Okay, all right. So what were you going to say, Craig?
I was just going to say that just in terms of context, I believe that this is across the street from a pizza parlor. And there's a lot of traffic coming in and out. There's a liquor store there too. So I understand there is a field, but I understand also if the owner would probably want to have some screening anyway. It's not like that intersection there is this beautiful bucolic place. It is once you enter this property, but I'm giving people some context of where this house is. It's not like this beautiful rural drive. You're in the middle of kind of a commercial area. Across the street.
I disagree.
I understand that, but I think it's because it borders the Polly-Krasner house. And I think it's just a matter of perspective. But anyway, don't propose trees between the Polly-Krasner house and this house because we don't all agree on that. The propensity of opinion here is to not do that. But if you can offer some screening to soften and see if you can find some kind of trim or something.
Minimization of-
Yeah, and I would try to, if you could do something with that 12 or 15 paned window there,
And the sliders?
And the sliders, yeah. The sliders less so because they're not as visible from the road, but that door, that big window is.
Sorry, where is the pergola proposed? That was a part that I wasn't.
The pergola is proposed,
Thinking,
and was
is it part
approved
of-
by
Yeah.
the zoning board of appeals. Just looking on the survey. Do you have the approved survey there?
There was, and there was a question about the way the driveway was drawn. Was it
Yes,
drawn
I'll
in
get to that in a
concert
second.
with the NRSP or not? I had seemed to think there was some incompatibility with that.
I'll get to the driveway in 1 second. I'm just trying to find where the pergola is on this tiny little survey.
It's probably on the water side.
It is on the water side. I'm just trying to figure out where it is.
Yeah, I just wondered if it might
Uh-huh.
somehow block or
Mitigate.
diminish,
Mhm,
mitigate the
mhm.
impact of the
Yeah.
sliders.
I don't, oh,
yeah.
yes. May I come up and show
Yes,
you where it is?
please.
Yeah, it's right here on the back side of the property. It's on the.
So it's on the-
Holocrasmal side.
Oh, okay. It is? Oh, I didn't notice that from that.
That's where it's proposed.
Yeah, okay,
I don't know
right.
That part.
Yeah,
that's been
so that
constructed
might,
yet. And with regard
So
to the
it's-
driveway,
it would be on the south elevation, Dan.
What
That's the,
what are those
ones.
lines going across in front of the sliders that we're referring to now, actually?
Shadow.
Is that a shadow?
Shadow
From
of
a-
what? Is it an
Arbor?
Is it an arbor?
no,
It's just shadow?
it's just the shadow, unless it's the shadow from the pergola, which is actually on the other side, so I.
That's why I'm,
okay, that's why it's a little confusing. Okay,
That's okay. And with regard to the driveway,
there it is.
I spoke to Andy about the driveway as well. When he purchased the house, as Member Guittard said, it's not in the best place. So he found that people running down Fort Pond Road often would not stop, run square into his yard.
Good
So
Lord.
he moved the driveway and asked the town board for an urban renewal
Mhm.
modification. And now this property, along with 840, is required to have a common driveway. And that's the way it was approved
Oh,
by the zoning board of appeals and the NRSP.
when was the NRSP granted? Was that this?
The NRSP was granted
Site
April of
plan.
2022.
like,
So
plan.
as you can see, the driveway is required because this is 840.
Yeah.
And these are two properties joined together on the UR map, and they're required to have a common driveway to serve both properties.
Okay,
So that's the driveway that was approved.
all right, so it's not, it's actually off their property
Right,
line.
it's
It's
actually on-
primarily on the other, and is that where that gate is? Is that where the gate that
Yes,
it's
the
currently
construction-
now,
yes,
that
the construction gate is-
metal gate?
Yes.
Interesting, okay.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, you can see it there now. All right,
So that's the answer for the driveway. It was approved by the zoning board in that
right,
location. and
I guess
pursuant to the-
we just needed that
Yeah.
clarification.
but-
Dan, you
No,
want
I'm
to?
saying We noticed that the approval it didn't have this red proposed one. See the red line? So the approval for the NRSP had the proposed and the.
I don't know what the red line is. I don't show that on mine. That might be the existing driveway. I don't know what the red line
Oh,
is.
it's existing.
Existing previous gravel driveway.
So
Yeah.
one,
This is the matching, okay.
right, so they do match.
Okay, great. All right, cool. All right, so we'll send you a follow-up letter with other recommendations, but, you know,
Okay,
thank you.
perfect.
Next
Thank you very
time.
much for your
All right,
time.
great, thanks very much. All right, number 221 Panago Road LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-188-1-13.1. Diane, this is yours?
Yes. This application proposes to merge 219 and 221 Pantago properties, which is where Carissa is, which I know everyone knows where that is, in order to better organize the site, provide more parking, expand the back of house space for business, and provide a 3-bedroom apartment for staff housing. The applicant would like to demolish the existing structure at 219 and build a new addition to Carissa in its place. Now, I think the wonderful thing is that the addition they want to build is a replica of what is already there. And we have very, very good pictures and illustrations. I took a few pictures, but they're
That's
inconsequential.
existing, yeah.
Their
Look
pictures
at their, at the
better.
submission, please, Dan, the proposed.
You know, I was here on this board when Carissa's was first proposed. And at the time, it seemed
Can you
quite
bring up the
radical.
proposed proposals, please? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just trying to get, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry,
it seemed
Diane.
quite radical to some people, but they had already established a smaller store in the village the bakery. And it was so well done, and the taste was at such a high level that I asked everybody on the ARB to please go to that Carissa before they said no to this Carissa. And everybody did, and the tide changed, and it worked out well. And now I think that what is there has enhanced the area, has made the neighborhood more alive. And I think to want to expand on that as she wants to, I think it's a win for everybody. I mean, the owners have been meticulous and honorable in everything that they have said, and they have, I think, worked closely with all the various departments of the town. And I'm hoping that everyone agrees that this project is a go.
Okay.
So the new building is the building on the left, it's 2 stories.
The building on the left.
Yeah, there.
But it's only 25 feet. I mean, it looks, proportionately, it looks quite high, but.
And they needed a pyramid variance because it was too tall and they needed a side yard variance. And did they get a variance for parking too? There were 3 variances, as I recall, for this application. And the pyramid variance was because of it doesn't exceed the height, but it exceeds the height that's permissible from the side yard. So they needed a side yard variance and a pyramid variance. And was it parking too, Dan? Anyway, they had to get a bunch of variances, which they've gotten. They were approved. Yes,
That's,
yeah.
She's here in the.
I mean, it seems like it's been in, it has been pulled apart, discussed, looked at, and I mean, I think it's nothing but a positive for effort.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Diane about this?
I think it's a win-win for the neighborhood and also for the quality of the goods sold.
I'm gonna actually state that I think that the new massing is, massing-wise, it's not as good as what's there now. I actually think that the roof line needs to be brought down, and I would like to ask the applicant if there's no information here about the ceiling heights, and I suspect there may be the possibility of bringing down, I just think the roof is too high architecturally. I think the massing of this is not.
I agree with you.
There are tons of drawings and elevations.
Is there, could we look at the elevations?
I bet you we have that information.
Well, there's 2 one-story buildings. Now this is a 2-story building.
Right.
And it's narrow. I mean, it feels.
So
So the bottom is the existing elevation facing the street. Let's go to the next
Now,
page.
yes.
And that's the new one. I just think it's too tall. It's not congruent with the other 2 buildings. It's sort of out of scale with the other 2.
But isn't that because the worker housing isn't on the 2nd floor? There's 3 bedrooms.
There are, but I'm not convinced that the roof can't be lowered.
But it's, I think it's the fact that it's only 25 feet, it's not 32 feet, or it's not that maximum. It's, and she has beautiful plane trees front, and I assume that she will continue with that sort of landscaping.
I just think that this can be improved. I think the
Is
roof
there a
can be brought
representative from
down.
the,
Yes.
would you come to the microphone, please? And identify yourself, sir?
How are you?
Oh, good, thanks. And you?
Good.
What
I'm
is your
Alex
name?
Crulley. I'm the architect.
Okay, thank you for joining us.
Sure. So just to speak to this issue of height, obviously it is taller because we were putting a 2nd floor on. The 2nd floor is to provide affordable housing for 3 to 4 members of our staff. We have actually tweaked those heights to keep this thing as low as we think we possibly can. And also, not just as an aesthetic thing, but also obviously because we needed relief from the zoning board for side yard and for pyramid, which we did get. The height on the ground floor is 9 feet from floor to ceiling, and that is a requirement of our equipment, the cooking equipment that will be there, requirements for ventilation, for exhaust of those pieces.
Right. You want to maintain the top of the windows too. Right?
Yeah, so that's at 7.6, so that datum stays consistent. We're trying to track as many of the existing datums across as we can, and we're matching all the finishes, obviously, to what is there. The 2nd floor, the height of the eave from the floor is at 6'8". So when you get up the stair, which is on the perimeter, you need a certain head height for fire code for egress. So we've kept that at 6'8", which is the lowest that eave line can be. Yes, the peak is tall, but the peak actually is helping the massing. If we try to flatten the line of the ridge, it's going to feel even more squat.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we feel that we've actually tuned this to the best proportions it can be for the uses that it needs to fulfill.
I think the reason it looks so tall and skinny is the windows on the second floor aren't as pretty as all those windows on the first floor. And I think if you had better windows on the second floor that mimic the first floor, it would change the feeling of the building and make it much more attractive.
Yeah, that was my second comment. I agree that if something could be done maybe with that, I don't know if it's to make it what is it, a
Slider?
Slider? I mean, could it be a casement window?
So there's a bathroom there in plan. So that's why that window actually can't be
That long window?
the second floor. You're asking about the second floor?
The bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a bathroom there, and we want to keep the symmetrical appearance of the building. So we're putting in a modern take on a shutter that will make the window and the shutter symmetrical over the opening below, but we can't actually have glass there into the shower. That's fine.
Oh, the shower's there.
And also just to comment on the second floor windows, those windows are matching the existing high windows at Carissa's, which are not the same as the ground floor units.
So the plan view of that bedroom one doesn't suggest that you can't move the window just to the middle and make it, I mean, I'd be worried about it looking too small, but I don't understand why that window can't be modified somehow. I'll show everyone the plan right here.
That's also the bed wall, and we have two small single bedrooms for individuals, and then we have that bedroom one is potentially for two individuals, so there would be two twin beds in that room. Those twin beds sit on this elevation, and so we put the window between them. If we have to slide it over, that's going to be sitting behind the bed.
Actually, it's the shower. It's on that wall.
Oh.
So I'm not sure what.
I don't know. That's me.
I agree with you. I think the massing is too big, but
Yeah, I don't understand if it's the bedroom.
If we reduce the massing, we don't get.
no, I understand the point. We're struggling with it too. We get it.
It would be a little easier if I had like a building section to understand it. I mean, I do kind of get it now that you're saying 6'8" from the finished floor to the eave, right?
Yeah.
So, because you have egress windows
Long horizontal window.
on the side there.
Oh, yeah, that's what that looks. That's not going to be as visible anyway.
And what's your
Yeah, I
floor,
think
what's your like ceiling to finished floor? What's the
On the
first
ground
floor,
floor?
see it like, was it
9
2 feet? No, but was it?
The floor package?
Yeah.
14 inches, something like that.
What did you say?
14.
Okay.
What I was asking, what is like the ceiling to the finished floor?
On which,
Because sometimes
The depth of the floor package.
it's packed up to give some flexibility about ducting and everything. There might be some room.
No, we haven't. We're not doing that at all. Actually, it's TJIs. So it's a 12-inch TJI, and you've got 1.5 of subfloor and finished floor above that, and you've got sheetrock below it.
You're just screwing right to the TGIs, the ceiling? Okay.
But what about that idea about perhaps making that second story window more graceful, like the windows on the facade?
To be clear, that second floor window is by the same manufacturer as the storefront below.
Well, I know, but it's a different shape and it has a different rhythm and it's.
Oh, because of the shutter. The shutter that's next to it.
one side is glazed and one side is solid.
It's a fixed panel. It's a shutter. It's applied thing that's let's call it 2 inches thick, and there's a track above.
Oh, I see.
It's floating off the building facade.
It could be, I guess, if we had a little more detail about what that shutter was. Like, because right, it's just the way it comes across in the, I know, but I'm just saying, because we're looking at the drawings and it just looks like a white panel. But if it were some sort of like natural wood, I don't know, then it might be easier to sort of see it architecturally.
I mean, if you look at an image of the building, you'll see that the existing buildings, it's all white stucco. It's, you know, that we don't have natural wood on this building. So I think if it were natural wood, it would actually, I would argue, look more foreign
So
to
what's the
there.
shutter?
What's the shutter? It's
What material is it? Is it painted?
it's painted white. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I didn't know that because it's
Inside
not.
or the
What is it
outside?
made of?
It's on the outside. Yeah.
It's on the outside.
And it's made of what? It's painted what?
Painted. It's probably tongue and groove wood that's painted white. It'll just read as a matte white panel.
Well, groove wood has a pattern to it.
We would suppress the seams. I mean, to be honest, we have not detailed the construction of the shutter, but it will read as a fixed white matte panel.
Unfortunately, that's exactly what this board is meant to be reviewing, is those kinds of details, so that the absence of that detail is part of why we're struggling with it.
Okay.
So,
I'm not saying that it needs to be detailed with like every attachment point and everything, but like maybe an enlarged elevation of that to show that. I mean, there are two issues. One is for me, like, what is that? And second of all, I'm just not, I think what it is that those steel windows are vertically oriented and the composition of that window appears in the drawing horizontal. So it doesn't seem like that upper window is working very well with the composition of the lower windows, which does work very well.
Right.
It just doesn't seem to be kind of, it's just that window.
What if they just got rid of the?
You could make that window wider.
I mean, I think there are plenty of
What if they got rid
ways
of
to
the shutter
to
that
skin
could
this
center
cat.
it?
That's the, no, yes, but it hits the wall. I guess that's the point you're
Maybe
making.
there's some
It's-
flexibility in that upper window.
Sure.
it's the shutter and then it hits.
Well,
you can't have a
I think
window
that's,
ending.
if that's
Right,
the,
but this is the window.
that seems to be the
Maybe they
concern.
could
I mean, the
move it
building
over
is
this
so
way.
Then it won't be-
harmonious now.
It won't be
And
centered
we
The other.
guarantee that it will remain
That's what I'm
harmonious.
hearing.
What if you
It
made the
looks like it could be, though,
window
is all I'm
deep
saying.
longer?
Seal it from the inside.
What if you made the window taller and
Like
put
a
like some
vertical?
French shutters on it or something to just
More like
dress
the
it up?
back window?
I think
That's-
it's so
yeah, that's
plain
what-
compared to the rest of the
You
building.
mean more like the
That-
window on the
that-
back of the
The
smaller
existing
building?
building is not
Yeah.
plain.
Excuse me?
No,
It's very plain.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's something ultra plain about this second story window.
Too plain. Okay.
It doesn't have the feel or the
The plan.
character of the rest of the building.
Yeah, the character. That's
Which is
what-
very
that's what it
attractive.
is.
The back, I mean, the back is the back, but the front should be all
Hmm.
together attractive. And I think this window diminishes that.
Tree, you'd be able to see it.
Okay.
But this looks wacky.
I think there are several ways in which this can be done. I just think the way it's like presented in this drawing, and I get it, because the elevation that's actually like sort of the beauty of the building is its simplicity. And so I get that the elevation is kind of simple. The problem is, I mean, a couple of things. One is that when it's presented to us, as Kathy said, there's no information even pointing to like what that is. And I mean, this is, again, my view is I just think, and I'm hearing from other people that window it's not quite working architecturally. And I will say also, if that's the biggest problem you have with this application, I think
Yeah,
you're doing
really.
pretty well.
Yeah,
So,
100%. Yeah.
you know, I get it. If this is the building envelope, I would love it if the roof height came down a foot or so, but if that's the building envelope that's going to meet code, then it kind of is what it is. But if there was a way to like just architecturally improve that second floor window.
But you all do understand the constraint, like, to be clear, we have looked at this and there are the constraints of the bathroom and the shower and also the
But
bed
there's a
wall.
couple of.
I don't
So we
understand.
have, we've
I don't
tweaked the
understand.
proportions of this, the sizing,
I get
whether
it.
there are one windows, two windows, whether it's asymmetrical.
I get
We
it,
felt
but
this was the
where
best
the
solution.
bathroom is inside kind of isn't our problem. Our issue, our task is the exterior elevations.
That's
So
correct.
it's your task to figure out how to make it work.
And you
even if it
can't
means
design
moving the bathroom.
exterior elevations devoid of looking at the floor plan inside, can you?
Can you just advance to the floor plan, Dan, and enlarge where the bathroom is on the second
To the
floor
corner.
and the relationship? Yeah, that's it. And just enlarge that. Let's look at the window. I'm having trouble understanding how this So you're saying there's a window in the bathroom, but there's a wall
We're
there?
saying we are avoiding putting a window into the shower of the bathroom.
Right, but you're covering a portion of the exterior to pretend like there's a window there.
Correct, to achieve the symmetrical appearance of the elevation. Because you'll also see that we are suggesting that there are two beds here that sit on this wall. That's the head of the bed. So we have tucked the window in between the two beds. So the size of the bathroom and the size of the beds are driving the location of this window, which means that the window has to sit off of center, but because everything else on the building is symmetrical, we are putting in a representation of a fixed shutter such that the window unit itself, when combined with the shutter, is symmetrical. That is the intent.
The beds can't go on the opposite wall?
I mean,
One of the beds?
the twin beds absolutely have to be right exactly there. You're telling me that there's no flexibility to look at that bedroom, bathroom arrangement
Yeah, why
to
can't they
make
be
it
on the other
something
wall?
work architecturally from the exterior?
The closet's open here. You can't fit two twin beds in this dimension.
Listen, like, figure it out. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, there's got to be a solution here. You know, I mean, it's not like, well, there's absolutely no other solution that's possible than that what you're seeing. I don't buy that argument. There's got to be something you can do. We're just asking to make that upper window a little better.
And so to be clear, that's a question of making what the desire is, that it is symmetrical. Is that fair to say, that the elevation is, that the window is not bigger and off center? I assume the board would not want to see that.
My view, the issue is the window compositionally is reading rather horizontally and sort of not just, it's not working. It's not like working with the fenestration of the first floor.
Yes, I agree. I agree with Frank's assessment there. And I think that what we're trying to suggest is that the overall composition of the three buildings and the fenestration of the three buildings and the doors and so forth, as presented, look good. They're sort of elegant looking, but that this window seems out of place. Now, I understand everything you're saying about the bathroom and the beds and all the rest, but I think my suggestion would be to get rid of that fake panel and just put a longer, narrower window, like a taller, narrower window in, and that might solve all your problems. You might be able to do both things, get your bed in and move it a little bit.
I would argue that if you drop the sill of that window, then you're looking up from the garden that we have at the frame of a bed, and it's probably not made, and that's not something that.
You could put Venetian blinds or something.
But I will also say that we are screening this elevation, just to be clear, not about the window or not, but we have images here of the landscaping and how the existing buildings are screened by significant gardens in the front. We are duplicating that. So this thing will not be seen.
Oh, in the
But
winter.
aren't those deciduous trees?
Yeah,
I'm
in
sorry.
the winter.
Aren't those deciduous trees that get bare in the winter?
Yeah, in the winter.
There's sycamores, yeah.
Well, we happen to live here year round. So people are going to see it. It's not like it's going to be screened all the time.
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, I think if you could
Listen,
maybe come back to us with a
it's
different.
looking quite good. I think everybody's, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kathy.
Okay.
It's just this one window. And I think,
Could it be
yeah, you know,
lower portion?
so
I guess
I think we
so.
said
I
it.
mean, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay.
I think there's something that
Sorry,
can be
I'm just
done.
trying to figure out if, like,
Oh,
to
that's his
Kathy's
job.
point, if it's a vertical, flip the panel.
Yeah,
Put the panel on the bottom. And then you have the upper portion
And the
being
verticality we're looking
glazing.
for, and it also centers it.
Because that, yeah, it
Yeah.
avoids that void.
Right.
It's at the gable. I guess that's what everybody finds awkward.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we should,
I see your face.
I know
if you can,
I know the time is of the essence on this project.
The time is of the essence, because if we don't get this, our building permit essentially within the next week or two, we'll lose a year. And so I would propose that we go back to the drawing board. We present something to you that is acceptable. We work on this and we agree to work on this, but I'd like to get approval so that we can get a building permit. That's a big risk to us business-wise and otherwise. It's taken us, although this was supposed to be expedited review based on the fact that it's an affordable housing project for staff housing, it was not. And we need this approval yesterday.
You're going to lose
I would propose that we will come back to you with an acceptable solution regardless of how that fits on the interior so that you're pleased with the exterior. But I would ask this board to please consider an approval so that we can get our building permit.
Right, I'm afraid we can't do that. I don't know how we can condition our approval on the fenestration of a drawing that, because all of this is relevant.
Acceptable to simply remove the window?
No, how are you going to lose a year if this is
Let's
not approved within 6 days?
Let's not debate that, Frank. Thank you. I appreciate your
Well, because it's
your
coming
feeling
back
on
to
that.
the town planning board, and then you're going to push us another.
Yeah, we're not the planning
several
board.
weeks.
We're the architectural review
No, I
board, and we're
understand,
not
but
pushing you a
it'll
year,
push
and we
us to a
have
point where we won't
accelerated.
be able to
Yes,
finish
I'm
it.
talking. I'd like you to listen to me,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry.
We can't approve it because whatever we approve is what you're going to get your building permit for. And this is a structural piece. The window is a structural piece of the building. See, if it was, if it was like a shingle or a siding, we could condition it on, because whatever, maybe it's available, maybe it's not available, but this is a structural piece. So those building plans are what the building permit will be issued for. So we need you to resolve this window issue before we can approve it. Now, if you can get something into us, I'll get you on the next agenda, but you've got to.
We'll lose the.
Okay, well, I don't think we're
would you
prepared
agree?
to do that, so I'm sorry if that's the risk
Also-
that
Could we
you,
eliminate the window? Would that satisfy the board?
I think it'd be worse, yeah.
I'm not sure the board would approve it with an eliminated window either.
What about if we remove the panel and just center the window that's there? Just have it as a,
That's what I was recommending.
No, I'm not going to accept this gun to the head argument. I'm sorry. That's like, even if we did approve it, we would have to sign off on a resolution 2 weeks from now at a meeting, which would then go to the building department. So you're not going to get it in a week anyway.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
but if you
approved it
don't,
today.
then you're pushing me into November and I won't be able to get this building.
We're not pushing you into November. This will be done in October at the latest.
I have to then file for a building permit. So I'm in November. And I've lost the window to be able to get this building finished by the next season.
Okay, well,
And I don't even know.
I'm
if I'll
sorry,
make
I'm
it by-
sorry that's the situation, but I think this is the best we can do for you.
we need both the affordable housing desperately.
I'm
And
aware.
we need-
I'm distinctly aware. I have an affordable housing apartment in my own home. I get it. I get it profoundly. I've lived here for 50 years. I know that affordable housing is a big problem. And unfortunately, our charge is to make sure these things look good. There's going to be a reaction to this anyway, because it's really big for this area. You got all the variances, but we need to make it look as good as it can. And right now, you do not have a consensus of the board on that window configuration. And so I'm saying to you, if you can get this, the minute you get a new drawing in, we will put you on the next available agenda. But that requires you to provide us with that submission. And then we will get you on the next agenda and we will do our best to accelerate that.
Thank you, I appreciate it, but
Sure.
I
Okay.
do want to point out that the building, although it appears in this photograph to look tall, it is below the height of the office building to the east.
it's 10 feet below the
10
height
feet.
allowed.
I'm sure it is, but from this perspective, it looks tall.
Weird perspective.
We're not gonna, it's gonna be that tall. We're not challenging that. We're asking you to revise the window, and then I need you to move on, because I'm on number 2. I've got 100 other things to do tonight. So if you have something that we can decide on tonight that you want to offer to me, please say it, and then
So
let's conclude.
The only plea I would make to you is that I would argue that we are going to potentially risk this project not happening for another year. And we're talking about that happening because of one window on the facade. And there
Okay.
cannot be a conditional approval that the
No.
window will be to the board's
No,
approval?
I don't see how we can do that. Can we do that?
Why can't we have a
Because it's
conditional approval?
because they
It's
have
one
to
window.
bring the plans to the building department. They have to bring the plans to the building department, Diane. It's a structural thing. It's like I was saying, if it was siding or roofing or something.
The
we
window
could
is
do a
not a
condition.
structural element of a building.
It's architectural.
There's no, like, that wall is going to be framed that,
David?
Do you want to pull the board?
and is there no faith in the owner who has been before this board before and was approved for the original construction and is acknowledged as a
Before
beautiful
the
building?
Architectural Review Board, we approved this?
This
I
is
do
the
not. I
first
think you are
one.
confusing boards.
The first iteration of this building, which we are matching in kind.
Well,
Years ago, years ago.
before you had site plan approval. And we don't approve things that don't have site plan approval.
I'm not talking about.
Sir, you're being argumentative, and that's not helping your case. Who wants to approve this with, I don't see how we can approve it conditionally. David, is that even a thing we can do?
The board can do conditional approvals, but the condition has to be specific enough that it meets to your satisfaction, that it's,
I just don't think I think it's too ephemeral. I don't think we can, what do you think?
Every time we've done this, it's messy and we have a
Yeah.
hard time
Okay,
getting to where we want to go.
Okay.
So it's a dangerous path.
right, okay.
One window.
I know that Frank is not, he's over it, and Esperanza?
I don't know if the rendering is skewed because you're saying it doesn't look as tall. It's hard really if the rendering is not showing us what it's going to look like, then we have an issue to begin with.
The rendering was just a scale comparison between what is there now and if you flip to the image prior, that was the purpose of the rendering. To show the existing office building, to show the neighbors on both sides, and to show that.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like the building to the east is even smaller, which you say is not, which, it's a matter of perspective and.
That's
so
what I'm
many times
saying. So that perspective is really
drawings
valuable.
are,
Okay, so,
So if I'm not opposed to approving this the way it is.
okay,
The way it is.
Yeah.
as submitted. And so Diane and Esperanza are willing to approve what's proposed as is.
And I hope not to regret it.
And
I can assure you.
what's your feeling?
To move it forward, I could go along with that because of the worker housing and everything else.
Well, I think that's a false narrative, but that's another thing.
That's not the reason why I'm.
but
disagree.
aesthetically, Carissa is really positive and a good element. It's really good. So if we're objecting to this one placement of this window, I think we could have enough faith in them to think that they're going to remedy that. If that's the only.
You can get your approval and then come back and say, you know what, we found a better solution.
I am
and then you
happy
for a
to come back to you.
modification.
I just
or you can
don't,
make the approval
honestly, I
conditional
don't
upon them.
understand the urgency of this, why you're so special compared to the other applicants we get.
Okay.
If the
all right.
issue was that you only had one shot at the ARB, why didn't you prepare your whole package 2 months earlier?
This package was submitted to you in December of last year. We have been waiting for approvals from site plan, from zoning. We have asked the town, there is a town resolution that cites that any project that contains affordable housing is eligible for expedited review by every town agency and waived fees. We are trying to make this happen as soon as we can so that in the winter months when the business can afford to shut down and build, we can start construction and finish construction and be open for business next spring with 4 staff housed upstairs. If we do not, and we are already so under the gun, it may not happen this year. We are doing everything we can to try to make it happen this year so that we don't have to wait until fall of 2024 so that the project is ready in
And the
spring of
reason that you're
2025.
before us tonight is because you only just received site plan approval from the planning board,
That's right.
which is why you submitted it in December,
Not
but
done.
we didn't review it until you got site plan approval. That's the protocol. So we're not sitting on it. We're waiting to hear. Then we do our review. We're doing our review. That's the protocol. So that to frame it as though we've been sitting on something for 10 months is unfair.
Sorry, that was not my suggestion.
Well, it was exactly your suggestion, sir. And I object to your adversarial tone with this board. I'm going to ask you to ratchet it back We'll take a vote on this. Make a motion.
It's not my application.
It's, now you want to vote on this? Do you want to let this go?
I don't want this heated atmosphere is what I.
Well, I don't either, but it's here. It's here because of our applicant. So let's,
They've asked us to do this, so don't blame us.
I just think that there's,
I'm not entertaining any comments from the applicant at this time. I'm dealing with my board. If someone wants to make a motion to approve this, please make it, and I'll have a second and we'll have a vote. If no one wants to make the motion,
I would like
then
to
we're,
make a motion to approve this application as presented with the understanding that the applicant is sensitive to our desire to see a reconfiguration of the second floor window, and that they have promised in good faith to submit new ideas to us. That's my motion.
oh, okay. I
That's
mean,
not
with all due
gonna- you have
respect,
to-
dear Diane, I don't think we can make a motion on a projection of a site, of a
Make the
visual
motion
we haven't
conditional
seen.
on the resubmission of a new design for the window.
Okay,
Is that
I make a motion
acceptable?
to accept this application as presented,
Condition,
conditioned on
the applicant's
the applicant's
resubmission of a
submission
satisfactory window design.
resubmission of a satisfactory second floor window design
May I
on
have
the
a second,
facade.
please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I assume you're in favor, Diane?
Yes, yes.
Would you vote aye, please?
Aye.
I'm against it. Frank, we need your vote.
I'm against this, the vote.
Okay, all right, thank you. Goodbye. All right, next up, business sign, number 3, street food on the green, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-1-22. Chip, this is yours.
So this should be an easier
Bill here?
application.
Yeah, great.
So this is an application concerning signage, lighting, and old electrical wires on the facade of a restaurant on the edge of the traffic circle in Montauk. Applicant was last before us on April 27th of this year when we made the following recommendations. Reduce the font size of the lettering in their new sign, which says street food on the green. The sign is in 2 parts. Street food lettering has been reduced from 13 3/4 inches per letter to 12 inches per letter. The sign is 9 1/3 feet long and 1.5 feet high, so it's 14 square feet. This is the existing, this is the temporary sign, okay. The on the green sign, can we go to the next photo, Dan, what they're planning to do?
This is existing.
Yeah, that's
I
a temp.
know, sorry,
Okay, so
There we
this
go.
is the sign that's proposed. The on the green sign is 7.2 feet, 7 feet 2 inches long and 10 inches high, or 6 square feet. So we're about 20 square feet on this. Remove excess, the second point of our recommendation was remove excess lighting and exposed wires on the facade of the building, which has been completed. The third point we raised was any new lighting has to be approved by us. There is no new lighting proposed at the moment. So I think they've conformed with the electrical situation, and they've reduced the sign. That's the temporary sign, so that has nothing to do with what we're looking at. And all that wiring and all those uplights are gone.
They're gone. That's good.
So I see no reason not to approve this.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Chip or the applicant? No. Would you like to make a motion? Did you want to say anything, Will?
Sorry, just one question. What is the color of the lettering? It's gold?
Orangey gold.
It's like an imitation gold.
It's
is
an
what they call
imitation
it,
gold, and then it's a faux wood back.
Yeah, which will kind of be similar to the
Support.
color
Okay.
the building is, yeah.
All right. Want to make a
I
motion?
make a motion to approve this application as presented.
May I have a second, please?
You got one.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go in peace. Fence, walls, gates, and berms, D'Amelio Garden, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-199-4-6. This is Trevor. Is he here? Hi, Trevor. Okay, Frank, this is yours.
Okay, you bring up photographs, please. So this is also 345 Springs Fireplace Road. This is an application for fencing at a property along Springs Fireplace Road near the intersection with Abraham's Path. This lot and surrounding area is fairly wooded with houses west of this lot. And that view is actually near those houses. The applicant is requesting approval for as-built fencing and gates in 2 areas of the property that we'll review on the survey in a minute. The application states that this is, quote, garden orchard fencing to limit deer invasion and other wild animals. Both fences are about 8 feet tall, not exceeding 8 feet, though some are a little less. And the gates are approximately 6'2" to 6'4" tall. The fencing is somewhat visible from Springs Fireplace Road, and it should be noted that this is late summer when foliage is about full. Hard to say how visible this would be when trees are bare. Let's go to the so this is, I'll go through that. So this is the one near the house. You'll see on the survey. There's like that top rail of the fence is does not exceed 8 feet. And then the fencing itself is below it. And those gates are about 6 feet to 6'4". Can we go to the survey? Okay, so Springs Fireplace Road is on the right. There's a street called Chatham Lane. So if you're driving up Springs Fireplace Road towards the Pollock House, this is on your left just after Abrams Path. So there are 2 fenced areas. One is the bottom left near the road in back of the garage or shed. The other one is near the house, and it's like there was a foundation poured but never built. So it's around that. And I guess I don't know if the Trevor can answer if this is like a commercial growing operation or if this is just someone's garden or, yeah, so I'll let you speak.
Sure, I will get to that. So, well, good evening, everybody. Mine goes a little more like the last than the others. To Frank's question, so this actually is not a commercial growing operation, but it is my client's retirement hobby, for lack of a better term. When he and his wife retired out here from the city, he started buying saplings. And as anybody who went to the site can see, and from the photographs, some of these trees are now 20, 30 feet tall. And initially, what started this application, these fences were all constructed by my client, not by a fence company. And he did it to protect the trees that he's invested in from the invasive, the deer and other species. But the building permit that had been open on the foundation had been open since the 80s. And the town is in the process of sort of going through and looking at old records. And they came and said, you have this open permit, you have to close it out. Oh, but you also have these fences that don't meet the current code. So that's how they came to me, and I said, okay, well, foundation I can't do anything about. We have to either build or remove it. So we're trying to sort that out with code and the building department. But the fencing is why we're here. And as you may have seen, Frank, that some of the trees are still actually in their containers, that's the word I'm looking for. Those actually were removed. He had them planted in the foundation and had to load them, and trolley them up a ladder out of the foundation and relocate them to the fronted area. But so this is not a commercial operation. However, it is a long, many years process of the homeowner applicant trying to grow these species. And I think ultimately he would like to, sell them off at some point, but there's no official record of that. There's no corporation or anything like that. So as Frank had mentioned, these are 8-foot high fences. They're 4x4 CCA posts with the metal wire 2x3 inch, sort of that stainless steel.
Should we look at more pictures of the property? Maybe, Dan, did you want to say more about the survey, Frank?
No, I think it's actually pretty
straightforward,
self-explanatory.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's so wooded, it's hard to get like photographs of the property. There's some ones at the end. Are there more here? Yeah, okay, there's the property from looking back towards town on Springs Fireplace Road. So it is pretty wooded in there. It's not like this is in the next page. You'll see what it, looks like from the street, and you can sort of make out the fence, but it blends in pretty well. It's not like this is some stockade fence.
And he didn't do it on the property lines. That wasn't the intention. It sort of, I think, meandered where it was least problematic for him to install it on his own. This wasn't done as a sort of.
I mean, so when
blocking
the
off.
trees lose their leaves, are these fences visible from the road? I suppose it would be on that one that's on the
Yeah, I mean, they are,
south
well, there is,
corner.
go back to the first one. First photograph, all the way like page 1 there. So that's not actually on that road. That is there's a dirt road into someone's property, between this property and the road, basically in back of where I took the photograph. So that's not like standing on a public street, that's standing on someone's driveway looking into this property. And it's kind of, I guess the other street would be twice the distance back from there. So, I mean, it seems to me the issue is whether we want to bring the gates down, or, I mean, my view is, I'm more comfortable with an 8-foot open fence than I am with a 6-foot or 5-foot stockade fence.
I understand. I feel the same way. Yeah.
And this is a 3-acre parcel, so it's kind of.
And it's also not on the property line. This one's kind of close, but the other one is definitely, far back, and it's not a small lot. It's set back from the property line. I'm willing to
Right. Could we condition it on, maintaining the vegetation that's screening it, so that,
Right,
so
it's
that
not
it doesn't, so it doesn't get, like, the trees don't get taken down at some point in the future, and it's not.
Yeah.
Because I think
see
that's
that.
part of
Right.
why
Yeah.
it works on this property, is because it's sort of self-screened by the property itself, right?
I absolutely could make
There's
that
also-
representation. He's planting more, not taking away.
No, I know, but he may not
So I
own the
would have no
property
issue with the
forever.
existing oaks and the foliage and the understory. That's all, I should have worn boots today. Out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah, it's also the issue, I don't know how you would do this, but like, it might feel a little different if this was like strawberries that were growing and there was nothing behind the fence, whereas it kind of blends in because there's the trees in back of it.
Right.
He's got many
Okay,
varieties.
well, yeah, okay.
Could we look at the survey again? Because I'm just not quite situated as to how this is enclosing any, I thought it was just that sort of.
No, there's the one
There are
that's.
2 enclosures.
That one, and then the one around that other foundation.
Correct, there's 2, yeah.
Delineation of a foundation. Okay, so this is not at all enclosing, any large portion of the property, it's just those 2 areas.
Right, those are just the property
That's what I
lines, there's no
thought, and I just
fencing
wanted
along
to-
the property lines.
Okay.
So it's all open except for this fencing.
Yeah.
Right, he's not blocking the deer's ability to traverse the property.
It's this.
Yeah, no,
And then this.
that's what I thought. I just wasn't clear because of the discussion of where it's seen from the neighboring
Right.
property and so forth.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Frank or the applicant?
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
you.
Thank you. All right, number 5. Good Lord.
Number 5 is alive.
Yeah, number 5, Jenny and Robert Vorhoff, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-4-23. Chip, this is yours.
Stan, can you bring up my photos?
Hi, are you Mrs. Vorhoff?
I'm Regina DeSimone. I'm representing Davis Landscape Design.
Oh, okay. Regina DeSimone. All righty.
So this is I'm just going to run through the photos. Side gate,
Yes.
driveway gate that's been reduced per our suggestion,
The pillars?
To what,
Well,
4
been
feet
reduced.
or to 5 feet? Sorry.
a little over 4 feet. Our recommendation was about 4 feet. That's oddly written.
Really?
Roughly 4 feet.
That's what it says. This is a pedestrian gate in the front adjacent to the driveway gate, also reduced to just over 4 feet. Keep going. There was a moon gate here that was taken
Oh,
out.
yes.
There's a second moon gate we never mentioned, that's behind the front facade of the house towards the backyard. Okay, so this is an application concerning oversized gates and posts, updating an existing survey, and relocating a call box. We last looked at this application on April 6th of this year. The 9/10 of an acre property is on Atlantic Avenue near Bluff Road. It's a very sophisticated new build house with extensive landscaping. Applicant has complied with all our requests. One, new updated survey depicting all structures. We have that survey. Driveway gates and posts have been cut down to 4 feet plus a few inches per our suggestion. Pedestrian gate and post similarly cut down. Removing the moon gate in the front yard, and relocating the call box inside the property. This was a side gate that wasn't on the survey, and they adjusted the survey yesterday, and they gave Julie and I a new copy of the survey. I see no reason not to approve this application, and I thank Jonathan Davis of Davis Landscaping for efficiently handling this matter when I called him yesterday.
Anybody have any questions for Chip or the applicant?
No.
Okay, Chip, you want to make a motion? Diane, are you good?
No, it looks very nice.
The most amazing thing about this property is the pool house is connected by an underground tunnel, which is a first that I've seen. Anyway, I make a motion to approve this application.
Yeah, have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passed and carried. Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, you have a
Enjoy
good
the rest of your
evening.
Thanks.
Okay, now, Julie, 7 and 8 have been withdrawn, is that correct? Yeah. Okay, but I have to read them anyway, right? So,
And 8, that's 6.
yeah, I know, I'm just orienting myself, folks. I know where I'm going. Okay, yeah, I got you. Extension of time, number 6, Danzion and Greenberg. Suffolk County Tax Act number 300-159-4-3. Diane, this is yours. I don't think we don't usually have representation for these
Okay, this is,
extensions of time.
they're requesting an extension of time from 2019 and the C of O. Okay, here you have it. Now, they have considerably altered these gates. Our resolution called for the pillars to be 5 feet 4 inches. But the pillars and the highest point in the fence are all now exactly 70 inches. And the transparency has been improved immensely. And so even though it does not conform.
Well, this is just for an extension of time. We just need to decide
Also
whether we're
the
going to
CO
extend.
Oh, the extension of time,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well,
We're just going to let them come back. They just need the approval to be extended so they can know.
okay.
No, so they're also applying for a CO at the same time.
Oh, you're right. That's right. Okay, I see.
Technically, I guess we could have,
I see. Yeah. Okay, right. I forgot that.
and then they still need.
Yeah.
The gates are 6 feet tall.
Remove the
They're
8-inch
70
spheres.
70 inches at the highest point.
And what did we
Post
ask for?
reduced 5'4".
5'4" pillars, but the gate itself, the resolution states 5 feet 11 and a half inches. So it's 1.5 inches shy, the gate. It's much more transparent. And the pillars are 6 inches too tall, but it's rather harmonious. If they made those pillars smaller now, it would look awkward.
Yeah.
But if the gate.
But we approved the gate, apparently.
11 gates.
Yeah, that was
Resolution
approved
is
in
for 5 feet 11 and a
2019.
half inches for the gate.
Really unfortunate.
Yeah,
So
well,
the
that's-
original
yeah.
configuration was such that must have
Yeah.
made sense at the
Yeah.
time. But since they've altered it and made it so much more transparent,
I think it was way taller, wasn't
it
it?
was taller, it was
Like
dense. it
7
was-
feet or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
right.
I mean, I think we should extend the extension of time. They've done the work.
Grant the extension of time, and then do you want to just slide into approve the C of O? We might as well just do that now.
Yeah.
So does everybody agree that this extension of time is a valid one?
Yes.
And that wasn't a yes, it wasn't a no. So, yeah, well, I think we're bound by the original resolution, even if that was not what you would
They
have
just
done.
say an extension of time, so they do, when,
Completely anyway.
yes, when they make the motion for the CO, they will.
Okay, so we do make a motion to extend grant the extension of time for the original approval. You want to make that motion?
Yes, I'd like
Okay.
to make a motion to grant the extension of time
Okay.
from the original approval.
Okay, may I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that's granted, and then we'll just skip to the CO and get that done. Number 10, Stanzione Greenberg, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-159-4-3. Is everybody in agreement that this is substantially conforms?
Close enough.
No, well, you guys, sorry, the board could make a motion to approve the structure as built.
As built.
Yeah.
Okay.
To issue the certificate of
Okay.
occupancy for
All
as
right.
built.
Good idea.
All right, there we go. Okay, so you
So
want to make
I
that
make a
motion?
motion to approve this structure as built and ask staff to contact the building department that it is ready for its C of O.
Okay, great. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Diane. All right, number 7, Sunset Surf Shack, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-6-7 has been withdrawn, postponed for a later date. Number 8, Montauk Clothing Company, Inc., Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-6-7, similarly withdrawn. Next up is the number 9, Menzel. Is that how I pronounce it? I want to know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-189-6-7.1.
Hi,
Evening,
everybody.
Mr. Ackerman.
Lenny Ackerman. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Tom McManus. He's the architect on the project. And he's going to answer any questions. I'm only here
This time.
just, to flip
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Frank. You had no trouble getting in?
Oh, a very pleasant conversation time meeting Brent.
Good. I'm sure I talked your head off. All right, Tom, you want to?
Okay. All right. So I think we're ready
Okay,
to
so
go.
I'll read a narrative and then let you all, okay. So 12 Tyson Lane, this is an application to build onto an existing house at 12 Tyson Lane, an oceanfront property off Further Lane. This property is also known as Lot 6 under the Tyson Lane subdivision created in 1967. Affiliates of this applicant also own Tyson Lane 5, 7, 9, and 10, as well as the agricultural reserve bordering Further Lane. This application is before us because it borders on the agricultural. I actually need a clarification if it borders it or whether we're in it.
It's adjacent to.
Adjacent to it.
Wasn't it?
It borders the Tyson easement that they also own.
Okay, it borders it. So the houses at 12, our applicant, and 14 Tyson Lane face each other. So let's go through so you can actually see, go to the next one. Next page. So that's 12 Tyson Lane, directly sort of in back of the beach that it faces is 14 Tyson Lane. And there is and they're divided by a property line that runs diagonally through the yard separating them. The applicant is requesting to extend the east wing on the landward side to extend northwards towards the house at 14 Tyson Lane. Again, that property is owned by an affiliate of the applicant. This extension would be the new extension build would be 5.6 feet from the northern lot line, which is beyond the 20-foot required setback. This also pushes the proposed addition into the pyramid setback. The East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals granted these variances on July 18th of this year, and the variance was filed with the town clerk on August 2nd. Now it is under our review. The Tyson Lane subdivision contains no covenants or restrictions that would prevent the proposed one-story addition to the property. The proposed addition is essentially taking the existing wing and extruding the volume north. Okay, let's just go through, is that all the photos? And then I'd like to go through the plan. So that's the house at 12 Tyson Lane. The addition will be on the left there. So we're looking kind of towards the ocean beyond. So that volume there would be extended towards us in the photograph. Keep going. And then what it's extending, that's a close-up picture of what's there. That'll be just extruded towards us. And then it extends towards that house, which is the other property. Mm-hmm. Can we go to the architectural drawings?
Nice photos.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, that diagram is a good one. So you can see where it's piercing the sky plane. So here are the numbers. Maximum allowable height is 32 feet. The proposed addition is 19 feet, 1 inch to match the existing roof line. Existing GFA is 6974, where proposed addition is 326, which brings it to 7,300 GFA. Allowable is 8829. It's noted in our records, no exterior lighting plan has been provided with the application. So the applicant should confirm with this board if new exterior lighting is being proposed. I have no objection to this application. The proposed materials, fenestration, and massing conform to what's already built. The most notable part of this application that is going beyond the existing setback and pyramid requirements, but these have been granted approval by the ZBA. The planning department has determined that no further natural resource permit is required for the proposed one-story addition, as it exceeds the 150-foot net jurisdiction. The lot onto which this addition will extend towards is essentially part of a larger contiguous estate. This is not visible from Tyson Lane or from what I could see from the neighbors to the east and west, as plantings and trees fully screen the property. As such, as I recommend this board approve the application.
How deep is the addition? How many feet?
Can the architect,
How deep is the addition?
how far are you coming out?
Yeah.
It's just shy of 17 feet, 16 and
Pretty
change.
small.
Oh, so it's very small addition.
But they needed a side yard variance because it's within 5 feet of the,
Of the property line.
yeah,
It's beyond this required setback.
and the pyramid law too. So.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Frank or the applicant?
Or does the architect have anything to add, or Lenny, or?
There was a question about the lighting plan. There's no additional lighting that's proposed. There's a new door as part of the proposal, and there's, by code, we need a light fixture at the door, which is shown on the east elevation in the drawings that were submitted.
So
That's
is the lighting fixture part of your application? Is there a cut sheet for that?
It's not, no. it's
Okay,
not.
because it should be, because lighting is one of our,
It's to match the
areas.
I see. It's
Yeah,
it would be
yeah.
to match the existing fixtures.
okay, so we could approve it with that condition, if you can just submit that for the file, so we have it.
Great.
And it's got to be dark sky compliant, but I'm sure everything else is, and if it's matching, it should be fine, but it's necessary for me to say that.
Thank you.
Should we just, so everyone can see the rest of the architectural
Yeah,
drawings?
that'd be great, thank you. Can you enlarge that a smidge? It's hard to see.
It's a small addition and small drawings.
Yeah, right.
This from the top.
It's like the John Nealon edition. Yeah.
Just slightly bigger.
Little tiny.
Yeah, right.
It's very similar.
Sure.
Is that it?
So it's the shaded area.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any questions, or should I make a motion?
I don't have any questions. Anybody have any questions for Frank or the applicant?
No, it looks very
Make a motion.
nice.
Okay, you can make a motion. That'd be
So
great.
I would like to make a motion to approve the application as presented. Lighting at the exterior swing door is to match the existing lighting in the house.
Perfect. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
They will need to submit that lighting, a picture of it or something.
Yeah, they'll submit it. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Oh,
Have a-
actually, for record, does the applicant need to submit for record a cut sheet or not?
Yeah, we asked them to do, yes, they do. I asked them to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and they said they would. We need it for the file. It's just got to be complete. You understand that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. What it is?
Is he under oath?
Oh, gee. Yeah, you don't have to swear in this agency, you know, yeah. Okay, issuance, we did that. Issuance of certificates of occupancy, number 1130 WM LLC, Suffolk County Tax Act number 300-200-2-35 has been postponed. Number 12, Gail Worth, Suffolk County Tax Act number 300-133-1-50.1. Esperanza, this is yours.
Yes. So this, if you will recall, is a set of driveway gates at this address at Wainscott Northwest Road, nearing Route 114. So it was open on the day that I went here, one of them, this side. And then if you could show the other that's when it's closed. The resolution was, last time I went, the work was not finished. The pillars had not been painted, the lighting or the wires were still on the top, so it wasn't properly capped. It was, and the lighting had not been installed at the base, you see on the front of the, sorry, I should have taken a close-up, but you can kind of see it there on the left-hand side. So that has all been completed. The maximum height, according to the resolution from October 28, 2022, was to be 5 feet. This actually is roughly 5 feet to 2.5 inches, depending on the grade. The driveway has like a 3-inch difference, from the natural grade. So I'm willing to forgive the 2 inches because it's really not a significant difference, especially given that the applicant has provided this fairly translucent gate and has completed all the work. So I'm happy to.
Does anybody have any questions for Esperanza? Okay, would you like to make a motion, please?
Yeah, you know, I didn't bring my cheat sheet.
Here.
Thank you.
Take mine.
Thank you. So I make a motion to instruct staff to notify the building department that this applicant has satisfied the conditions of the resolution dated October 28, 2022, that the structures as built substantially conform the ARB approval, and a certificate of occupancy can be issued.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that's passed and carried. All right, the resolutions that we're signing this evening, Esperanza and Diane, did you get a chance to sign those resolutions? Thank you. Our Amagansett Dunes, Unit 210, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-190-2-16. East Hampton Tire Center, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-161-4-2.1. Feathertop Farm LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-159-2-1.3, comma 1.4, comma 1.5, comma 2, comma 4.1, comma 5, comma 1.6. 99 Town Line Road LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-2-45, and Fine Residence, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-189-5-5. Okay, that concludes our meeting. I want to thank LTV, thank this board, thank council, and our planner, Dan Gross and Julie Akala, for all your help, and thank everybody for working so hard. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, we're adjourned.